Evening, everybody. Welcome to another session of Sustainability Sundays. And this week, I want to talk about the topic that dominated my Twitter timeline by far. The IPCC dropped its latest report on everybody, and Twitter collectively lost their mind. For those who aren't aware, the IPCC stands for the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and they are perhaps the most recognized body in the field. They have something called synthesis reports that they release every 3, 4, 5 years. I wanted to spend today to share some of my thoughts on this IPCC report. Here's what the summary for policymakers looks like. It's 64 pages long, and the reason why the summary is 64 pages long is because the main report is 2,913 pages, which is immense. Some of you may be tuning in to watch me break down the key details of this report, but I intend to do none of that. I want to share why I personally ignore the IPCC report, and most of the world does as well. And I wanted to talk more about this phenomenon. 3 reasons why I ignore the IPCC reports. The first one is because it's not meant to be read by average people. Average people do not read 2,900 pages a day, a week, a month. I probably don't read 2,000 pages a year. It's a monumental task. It's not even designed to be read by the 90th percentile of people who are active in climate. There's just no way. It's way too dense, and it's not useful information. The other reason why I don't read the IPCC report is because they don't tell us anything that we don't already know. And I think that the IPCC reports are kind of like Pokemon games. The core content does not change over time. Take, for example, the last report, which is AR5, and this recent report, which is AR6. So I'm going to pull it out side by side. Keep in mind, I think one was written in 2014 and one was written this year. And the key message is pretty much the same in both of them. Our anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions have risen across the board, and they continue to rise. All you've done is that you've added 10 years to the most recent report on the left. To be frank, I mean, they could have done that 10 years ago. Greenhouse gases have continued to rise over the past 10 years, and we're at an all-time high. And that was true for both this recent report and the last report as well. I think there are other few key messages in the report that remains the same as what was written in 2014. We need greater ambition to avoid 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming. We knew that. We have the tools available to deal with this climate crisis. We knew that as well. And we need to change the system. That's what everyone has been saying. So honestly, the key messages in the most recent report are exactly the same. I kind of wish that there was sports betting for climate issues, because then at least climate scientists could make money in addition to being continually depressed by their findings. You know, if you could go to like DraftKings and bet on the key headlines for the next IPCC, you could earn so much money that way, because it's always the same. Just to be clear, I would hope to be wrong, but I'm not optimistic for these outcomes. The last one, I don't think that the IPCC actually addresses a real need. We are not in a climate crisis because we don't know the science of climate change. We absolutely know the science of climate change. We've had a hunch since the 1970s, and funnily enough, it was the oil companies who first started looking into the science of this. And then since the 2000s, we've known for sure that we are in a climate crisis. Governments and companies, they're not holding back climate action because they don't know the science. If you asked me, the actual problems holding us back from genuine climate solutions are political will. I think a lot of governments are a little afraid to take climate action. It will impact people's livelihoods. It will impact the way business is done. And I think people are afraid of that. The second one is monetary incentives. And I think it is cheaper to not take climate action now, at least. In the long run, we know that's going to be more expensive to not take climate action. I really don't think that science is what we're missing from the equation. To be frank, I'm not sure how an undertaking like this is helpful. I worry that it's a little bit like a placebo. You think that you're doing the science, you think that you understand it well, and that's your contribution, when really that doesn't help to unlock what the actual challenges in the climate situation are. Now that I've shared all over the IPCC, maybe I should share a little bit about what I think it is helpful for. And it's very specific. I think millions of years in the future, when we have an alien civilization come to visit Earth, they will come upon our document archive through the terabytes of web content, whatever other weird stuff people put on the internet, hours and hours of human sexual video content. They are going to come upon some documents that demonstrate that the human civilization had a really good understanding of the impending climate catastrophe of the Earth that they were inhabiting. And then they're going to spend an incredible amount of time and effort trying to figure out why a civilization and society that could predict the disasters and catastrophes that were about to come didn't take action at all on avoiding these outcomes. And I expect that they'll create departments in universities, hold degrees on human civilization study, and this is going to be one of the key questions. But I guess in terms of a serious answer to the question, right, of what the IPCC is useful for, I think there's one thing that it's helpful for, which is that if you are a climate activist, or if you are someone working on a very technical solution in a technical space, and you need evidence to support your claim or your hypothesis, I think the IPCC offers that scientific basis, and you could look for a particular sentence or two sentences that supports your hypothesis and that supports the reason for why your work's important. I think that that's what it's helpful for and it's good for. But outside of that, I really struggle to find utility in this document. I had put an open call out there actually to other people who work in the space. What do you find useful in the IPCC? Because I honest to goodness read this and I struggle to find anything that's helpful or useful. I think the other challenge is that it doesn't offer very clear solutions. Look at the summary, all the citations, you know, I don't think it says what people need to do. So I think that's a key failure of the document as well. I'm sure that folks are going to disagree, and I'm very keen to hear what people find the IPCC useful for. That's all on this segment. I'm going to take a sip of water and then I'll move on to the next segment.